Hello, welcome to actual play, Burning Wheel, Into the Vault. I'm Sean Nittner. I use he, him pronouns. You can find me everywhere at Sean Nittner. I am a host tonight, and I'm playing Palara. God, her name is so much. Palara, the Pillar, Dragon Sworn, Prince of the Vault, Evictor of Spiders. Um, I'm Polara has so much on her plate right now. It reminds me of being a project manager and a convention organizer and a system admin all at the same time, which is my day job. So it's fun to have this character who is very capable of resolving big things and or not or having them blow up her face like having to start an adventures league. So it's I love this game so much. Normal news is or normal not news, I guess. All the proceeds to this channel go are split between Black Lives Matter and the Trans Legal Defense Fund. So if you give us money here, that's where it will go. If you want to donate directly, that is super cool too. If you want to help out in other ways, I will put a link to some possible ways you can help out in chat. Starting next week, we will be making an exception to that because next week is Roll20Con, and we'll be participating in Roll20Con, running a bunch of Evil Hat games and a bunch of different events. And for Roll20Con, all of the proceeds are going towards Code 2040, which helps Latinx and Black kids get into tech jobs. And that's a super cool charity, and I'm very happy to be supporting those folks as well. So, and we'll have a Tiltify campaign, and we'll be like, normally we're just like, yeah, throw us money if you like, whatever. But next week, I'll be knocking on doors and asking for people to pony up because it is a real good cause, and we'll have links for all that stuff as well. But tonight we're just gonna play some Burning Wheel. How about you, Judd?
Hey, my name is Judd, he, him, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. It was 2 weeks, as always, kind of flew by and kind of felt like 300 years as the time illusion shifts and strains in the strange time we live in. And yeah, it is nice to be back. I feel like, yeah, we didn't kind of get through we didn't get through all the princes.
Oh, it was like the first session in a long time where we didn't do 10 times more than I thought we were going to do. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Usually it's like, oh my God, we did all this stuff and a year's passed and this has changed. And that session was like, okay, 4 princes down.
Right. But we didn't make the rookie administrative Burning Wheel mistake, which is sometimes if you're in a leadership position in a Burning Wheel game, there should be a name for this. Your beliefs can turn into a task list instead of like a philosophical thing to challenge. So we did not do that. So that's good. But yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. I think we didn't get to the drunk uncle prince.
Yeah, we did not.
Yeah, it's funny. What you said reminds me of a talk I had with a colleague library manager back in the day of MYPL, and I was at a meeting with her, and we were talking about video games, and I was like, "Have you played Crusader Kings 2?" And she was like, "What's that like?" And I'm like, "It's kind of like managing a library if you had swords." And she was like, "Send me the link to this game. I must have it." I was like, "You might hate it, but you might love it. It might be the best thing that has ever happened to your computer." So yeah, it was. So it's funny hearing you say like this was a lot like managing a con. Reminded me of that. It's funny.
I think it's so funny when you find things that are like your life but are fantasy versions. It's so hit or miss. Sometimes you're just like, oh, this is so cathartic for me. It allows me to do the thing that I can't do in real life. Like I can literally just punch my problems. Yes, please.
Right.
And other times you're like, no, this is too close to home. This just feels like the day job during my what time it's supposed to be. So I get it. I've heard so many people raving about Hades, and they're just like, Hades is so great. And I'm thinking like, I just released Agon. I I should be like into like all things Greek.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
haven't played it yet. One, because I have no time. I mean, I play like 0 video games. But two, because there's this little fear in me that's gonna go, oh shit, I'm gonna see something in it that I wish I put in the game, and I'm gonna cry that I didn't do it. Because people have talked about the game design and the brilliance of it, and I was just like,
Yeah.
if I see something in that game that I realize we could have easily slipped into the game and we didn't think to, it'll, you know, it'll make me cry. But
it is okay to say, hey, I need a little space.
Yeah.
It's too soon.
Yeah.
I think that's a very, very valid decision. And yeah, I totally hear you. It's a fine line. Like, it can either be like, wow, this is really great. It's like I have a sword at my day job, which is the greatest thing ever. Or it can be like, wow, it's everything I hate about my job and a bunch of things I hate about game design all in one spiteful package.
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with this ever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that is a
totally
great thing about playing with you, Jed, because I feel very confident that if we get into territory where I don't mean to turn this into a safety talk, but like that's for me, that's where it goes to. I feel very confident that if we're ever getting to a place where I'm just like, this sounds terrible and I don't want to play this game, that that we have this very great open dialogue to just say like, well, that doesn't sound like fun. Can we do something else?
Yeah.
And I remember.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Go ahead.
Go on. You go. I'll pay you.
Yeah, I remember with Bina, I was just like, oh man, I could totally see Bina's kid getting kidnapped, and I just really don't want that to be part of the game. And we just sort of talked about it to the point where I was like, cool, if Bina fails this role, it's very bad for her and it's catastrophic, but it's not something that me as a player is going to feel really upset about. And in fact, it's something that I'm not excited about. Like, yeah, I want it to happen, but I'm like, that'll be interesting what happens. That'll be a really cool setback and a really cool twist, and it'll change.
It's funny. The inspiration for that kind of safety was a couple things. One is an old game I played with my friend Aaron, where we were playing in Waterdeep. We're playing for Burning Wheel, but we're playing set in Waterdeep. So of course you burn up the character and you look at the history of Waterdeep, and you're like, yeah, you've been here since this was a pasture filled with cows that like pirates would use to like grab some meat and a little bit of water and then head back out. Like, you remember when there was nothing here, which is funny, but the elven life paths kind of bring that out. And then he had a relationship with his really cool kick-ass elf wife, and he made no beliefs about her. And I was like, oh, this is really cool and interesting. This is not meant to be challenged. Like, you're going to come back from your adventures and you'll tell, like, at one point he came back from this really kick-ass adventure and they were talking, and it became clear that she had an adventure and was now like one of the masked counselors of the city.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah, I wanted that thing where it was like, how was your workday, dear? Oh, we went into the Swamp of Kings and tried to get a magic artifact. How was your day? Well, I got into a couple of sword fights in alleys and now I'm a city councilor. And it's like, oh, cool. Like, I wanted it to be, but it's an interesting thing with beliefs. I think you can really use them not only to say what's important to the character, but I think when you're really cooking with gas and you're doing this shit at a black belt level, you're saying, this is what's interesting to me about the character, and this is what I want to roll dice on. So you can do things like have a child and be like, yeah, let's not kidnap the child. Like, let's just not do that. It's not, like,
I'm not going to make a belief about keeping her safe because I don't want you to challenge that belief, because that's your job. Your job is to challenge beliefs. If I make a belief about something, it's a love letter to you to say, please make this hard. Please threaten this.
Right.
Please bring it into play at the very least.
Yep.
And so I love the idea of essentially making safe zones, or making things that are going to not happen in play by excluding them.
Absolutely. And I mean, of course, it doesn't only have to be, what beliefs are written. We can also it's also a lot of talking. And I think the channel that you've all set up here, you and Ash, who I've never met, and Shrosh, yeah, I totally should. I just feel like there's a third partner I've never met. The vibe you've set up here is very much this is not perfect. the people are more important than the game. The people are more important than the stream or the people watching. We're not here to like, try to take on Critical Role and get 300,000 viewers. We're here to play a game and like positively model the behavior we want to see. And that's cool. That makes it very easy for me to come and play and feel like it's going to be safe, because I can say at any time, hey, I need a break. And it's not a weird, the show must go on thing, So I think there is some, the three of you have set up a vibe that makes safety the priority. And I think that's really important. So that's also a thing.
It's important to us. So
yeah.
Oh, thank you, Cram Day. I appreciate it's one of your favorite channels, and I appreciate everybody in chat for being so cool. Like I've zero times in my 2 years of streaming, I've zero times had somebody in chat be like, "Oh, blah, like get on with the game," or "Stop talking about that," or like a couple people on YouTube when we streamed #feminism games, there were a few people that were like dislike. I'm like, cool, YouTube, you go you. But never on stream, and like there's always going to be YouTube randos. So
right. Oh, so our funniest YouTube rando moment was playing the Bluecoats game. This is hysterically funny. And there was a while where I was looking back on past videos, and there is a high school marching band called the Bluecoats, and they're like nationally ranked.
Nice.
And so we're putting up videos that are Bluecoats, and we're getting all of these messages and comments from people saying things like, "This video shouldn't be here. I can't believe you're doing this during our like national tournament." And we were like, I remember being just like, we're playing a game. I don't know what to tell you. Like they had no idea what they were looking at. They thought like, I'm gonna make Bluecoats in the title so I can steal some thunder from these high school musicians. And we were like, no,
sorry.
not what's happening.
Sorry,
like
friends.
It was just weird. It was like, it's like having a football team be like, the Northampton Jedi, and then being like upset because you're like, oh, there are all these Star Wars streams.
What's going on? Yeah.
What's going on? So it was like this every once in a while when I'm looking at a Bluecoats video, a Bluecoats musician, marching band video will come up, and I just laugh myself silly. So anyway, go Bluecoats. I hope you're having a good season and being safe and wearing your masks. And God bless your parents, who are very protective of you, as they should be. And let's anyway, internet randomness. That's one of my favorites.
That is a good one. Well, all that said, let's burn some wheels. Let's set that 5-spoke wheel on fire. You want to do beliefs, or do you want to do a recap, or what sounds good to start us off?
I think we can like do beliefs, and that'll kind of recap us pretty well.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, let's flip over there.
I'm there already, so I'll read the first one. And the first one is the same one as last week. Bella's wedding is the first chance for dwarves, elves, and trolls to celebrate together in ages. I will unify them all in a common task, restoring the apps of earth and sky. Cool.
Yeah, and I marked a fate for that last time. I'll uncheck it now to remember, because I did definitely introduce Prince Kiara of the Iron Gods to the Broodmother, and got her kind of cool. And I also got introduced Prince Bulat to not introduced, but sort of made Bulat aware of Kurbika and the Adventuring Guild, which was not my plan at all, but it happened. And so I feel like we made some inroads there. The apps of Earth and Sky, I think I said this last time, but it's just something I made up. But in my mind, there's a part of the vault that is close to the surface where a beautiful skylight comes in, and it's the place where Gaffy and Bella are going to get married. And it's all the windows have been shattered long ago, and so I think we're gonna blow some glass. We're gonna we're gonna dye it. We're gonna make a beautiful, scintillating light beam that will shine down on them for the wedding.
Cool.
So that's the plan at least. I didn't tell anybody to do that specifically, but I got started on it. Before Fione was Axel Leonte Orco. He was the Elven Etharch's brother. I will share my memories of him with her, and in turn ask her to tell me what drove him to so much hate. And I honestly think that belief is kind of going to get. I'm going to ask a little more now because it's. You can see my third belief. You want to read that one?
Yeah. No longer Runehall. Orkant is a crude name made out of fear and resentment. I'll aid she who whispers in the darkness and the fire in fending off the handmaiden's control, and in doing so, learn its new name. Wow.
I think the orcs have a name for it. I think that there's a conventional wisdom that the dwarves are like, one day we're going to take back Runehall. And I don't think so. I think it's going to be whatever the orcs call it. At least that's my plan.
Wow.
I'm going to try and make some peace there.
Yeah.
And I got ideas about how the Elven Etharch could help me if she's amenable. So yeah, I'm into it.
That is interesting.
I'm into trying it. I'm into going to Orkant and seeing what peace we can make, if any.
Cool.
So
yeah, in the DVD commentary, they're like, Judd, is it true that the conflict in Orkant was kind of based on the political conflict of Israel and Palestine? And I'm like, no, I just thought the name Orkant was cool, and I never thought Sean would go there. And then he made me make shit up by going there, and now here we are. Like I really never thought it was going to be a thing, and then I named it 2.5 years ago without really thinking about it.
Yep.
And now I've got Orkant and Drunk Uncle, and I've got to make sense of it. And
yeah,
so,
I'm just attacking your map with a crowbar and just prying up all these rocks. You're like, no one's ever gonna lift that rock. That's
right.
That's I don't need to know what's under there. And I'm like, gimme.
Yeah, names have power, people. Be careful.
And the synergy of this game has such it's like a gravitational pull, has such magnetism for me that I know that when Fione Cecile gave into his hate completely, he became the orc Axel Leonte Orco.
Yeah.
And I know that when Varana gave into her greed so completely, she became a dragon.
Right.
And I've seen a dwarf turn into a dragon and still be, in my opinion, not a monster, right? I was like, I didn't agree with her. I was really upset with her, but I didn't want to kill her because of who she was. I didn't want to kill her at all. I wanted to, I sort of like honored her existence, and I was super pissed off at the person who killed her because they said, "Oh, I freed you of your oath." I'm like, "No, you made it impossible to fulfill my oath. You've made it so that," and I feel like that there is something there, and I don't know what that something is, but I feel like there's something there between that relationship between dwarf and dragon and elf and orc. And like, you've just laid it all out there, and I'm being very greedy and saying, "Gimme! I'm gonna grab a hold of it." So we'll see.
No, it's not greed. It's awesome. It's very, very good. I'm into it. I'm into it.
So I think we last left off with she who whispers into the darkness and the fire, kind of saying, "Hey, give us weapons." And I talked to Kerbika and Hertho, my leader of the adventuring party and warden, respectively, also son, and said, "Nope, we're not going to give her weapons. We're going to go armed ourselves, and we're going to turn the tide in this fight so that she who ate the dragon, she who eats, she's changed her name to, I think, she who consumes the world, something."
Maybe. I just have she who ate the dragon. I'm not sure.
I think I feel like her name got expanded when she sort of took on everything else. But yeah, she who eats the dragon. We know that one for sure.
Yeah.
And so I think we said like we're gonna go, but I don't feel like there's a time frame established there. And if it's possible, I'd like to like adjourn to some of the other things so that I can have a chance to talk to the Elven Etharch before
Yeah.
we go out. But I don't
Cool.
know. Was there urgency? Like we got to go right now, or was
No, I don't,
there?
I don't think there's urgency. I think,
Okay,
time is a factor, but I don't think there's necessarily, it has to happen right this second.
yeah. And I think to be fair, like it will take some time to sort of get Hertho to mobilize forces because they're doing a lot of. They were expecting to do a lot of like, you know, cosmetic guard duty. Like we weren't expecting a fight to break out amongst the princes, but like before this happened, the plan was to have like a graybeard or a axe bearer or somebody like at every doorway, right? Just to show that like you're safe here and
Yeah.
and like honor guard, like just not expecting a fight, but just to be there. And now I think we're gonna be like, no, never mind. Let's put some other folks there. We need to
Oh,
round
interesting.
up the
Cool.
um, so
Cool. So I think, yeah, let's make you make a tough decision. That's what these games are all about. I think the Elven Etharch and Prince Zargan of the Drunk Uncle arrive at about the same time.
nice.
So, yeah, I think there's this like weird, uncomfortable thing in the hallway where it's like Zargan's honor guard and the Etharch's honor guard kind of staring at each other across the hallway.
Yeah.
And poor Gaffy, who is not equipped to deal with this, comes to you and says, we have a real problem. They came at the same time. I couldn't stop them.
No, doesn't surprise me. Polara has, I think Gaffy like finds Polara in her study, which is like a big section of the library.
Yeah.
And she has a book on like the history of, or several books on like the histories of the seven mountains and she's based on her husband's Horthro's description of Prince Zargan, Prince of the Drunk Uncle. She's been trying to find out like, is what Corbika said true? Is she never ever going to make a good impression on Zargan? Is it worth even trying? Because Corbika said you're a clan dwarf. You're you don't come from the pedigree she cares about. You're a brand new upstart prince. There's no way you're ever going to be good enough for her. Why even try? And I think that really kind of resonated with Polara because she had that experience when talking with Boj. Like she's like, I'm leading this expedition. He's like, no, you're not. You're a tunneler. You're doing what I tell you to do. And she's like, I'm in charge of everyone's safety. And she got dismissed. And I think she's used to being sort of dismissed by dwarven nobles. So I want to know, could I make a I think I have Noblewise now, Dwarven Noblewise. Could I make a Noblewise check?
Yeah.
To get a sense of like whether or not that's really the case, like whether or not there's anything I could do to impress. Like if I give her a gift the size of a mountain, is that all going to be for naught?
Right. I love it. Make a Noblewise roll, and I think the ob is 1, and then it'll scale up based on how many successes you get.
Yeah, and I think I want to bring in ancient history because I'm specifically studying these books to look at like she's the oldest dwarf. She's the oldest dwarf in the oldest holdfast, and I want to know like what the holdfasts have experienced up till then. Because that's where I'm getting the knowledge is out of that. All right, so let's give that a whirly bird. Okay, Noblewise. Come on. 1 bonus die. Okay, 2 successes.
Cool.
No.
Yes, you want to know how much what you can do to win her over, or if there is anything.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that I think you find. One is the gift is kind of the baseline. So if the gift isn't princely, the rest won't matter, right? And then looking back on her family, you know what Zargon would want, and just I think there's actually books written by princes who are long dead about getting advice from Zargon, and just like, you know, getting years of letters from her, and like looking back on them and how she was often right. And based on those letters and with the advice she often gives, she would want you to marry your daughter, break it off with Gaffy, and marry your daughter to one of her sons to show that now you're a noble, and the clan is behind, the way of the clans is behind you.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
and that more than, because I kind of kept Toman, right? My always wants to be good to his mom, super responsible, older child who always carries the run. I kind of kept Toman as a, you know, possible as my eldest, as someone I could marry for this very purpose. But what I'm hearing from you is it's not so much the act of marrying one of my kids, it's the act of specifically breaking off this wedding and like showing I'm that dedicated. It's the what's the biblical story? You know, it's the Isaac story of like, you know, I will kill, you know, my child for, or in this case, I will marry off the child against her own will, you know, instead of to somebody she loves, to you.
And I think it like, and like you read a letter where she talks about it, and she says like, this is like, you have to make sacrifices, and we need to see that this family is willing to make the proper sacrifices.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. But you know, you think that a girl, you know, a really princely gift and a marriage to Toman might smooth things over. Like there might be something there, but there would still be a problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a real like spiteful part of Pelara that's like doesn't want to try. There's a part of her that's just like, why even go through the motions of faking it? Like,
wow. Yeah.
She's very tempted to send Kurbika to meet her and be like, I'll show you to your quarters, and like give a very modest gift and just be like, fuck you. I don't care. Like, I'm never going to be good enough for you, so I'm not even going to try.
Right.
And I have an instinct about this. I have an instinct, which is, sorry to put you on the spot more, Judd, but
no, it's great.
When I'm unsure about the best way to govern, consult the Broodmother.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, unless you say, well, no, since I have an instinct, I can do it even if you tell me the time is short, because I can say it.
Right.
It's my instinct. Yep. I always could do that. So, I want to kind of run that by the Broodmother and just say,
cool.
I don't want to be petty. I realize a part of me is just spiteful that she looks down on clan dwarves, and I am angry about that. But I also wonder if I should just really conserve my resources and not worry over much. Sure, she has wisdom. Sure, she has power and clout. But if I'm never going to win her over, and she's going to want me to make sacrifices like that,
right?
You know, so yeah, I kind of run that by the Broodmother.
Yeah, so I think we're in the Broodmother's lair, so to speak. We've seen it once before when we first met her. It's like a rock outcropping over a waterfall, or next to a waterfall, and you know, it's quite beautiful. And I think the floor has actually been the difference between this time and last time. Is last time it was just rubble and stone,
Mm-hmm.
and this time the dwarves have like smoothed a part of the floor and polished it and carved in the six spoked wheel, the wheel of earth, which is the wheel that the trolls
Nice.
are most close to. And so I think the broodmother is sitting, crisscross applesauce on this wheel, uh, and but there are still like stalactites and stalagmites. It's not hasn't all been polished away,
Mm-hmm.
and she like makes like a and it's just this very deep rumbly noise, like a earth tremor, and says, "I've never had to deal with this bloodline dynastic noble thing. I don't. I know this. Insults among nobles turn into war.
Mm.
This is not just a clan feud. This will be something greater. This might be something that your children and your grandchildren have to spill blood over if you do it wrong."
It's a very good point. I might satisfy my own desire for justice here and only imperil them later. They don't deserve. I want to give them opportunities I didn't have, and I don't want to saddle them with my mistakes.
Yep.
All right, Pride, you take a back seat today. Let's find her a good gift. And
Cool.
this is so the way we handled the previous ones, we sort of flashed back to preparing the gift, and I think probably this
Yeah.
conversation, since I've heard all these things already, is also part of that flashback. And I the so I have an idea, and you tell me if and I can make another roll, see if this makes sense or not. But she is so the way you described her, I'm imagining this kind of Alexander Hamilton style person who just like writes vociferously and
Yeah.
like is a person that like you send an insult to and they like reply back with a 30-page chronicling of every time you've crossed them, and they
Yes.
have
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
like
Totally.
ironclad memory. So I'm thinking it's another book, which I gave a book to one of the other to Kiara, but this is the vault, so I think a book is appropriate. What if I made a collection of all of her wisdom? What if I took all those letters that the Dwarven princes had talked about
Yeah.
and that she had sent them over the time, and I basically made something that was a book of her knowledge and a book of her wisdom that she would have the first printing of, but that we would effectively designate the resources to like make as a mass printing doesn't exist in this
Right.
setting. At least I don't think so. But you can have scribes writing the same book over and over again. And I think that she would get the most majestic and beautiful version. In fact, maybe she could even, send any notes back. And the greater present would be, here's the first printing. Once you've kind of given it your blessing, we will share this with all the dwarves and sort of share the wisdom that you have, that has been compiled based on your teachings.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool gift. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's pretty cool. Let's see how it lands.
Yeah.
And let's figure out how much it will cost.
Yeah.
Because there are things in here about bookbinding.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not a skill I have, but I can circle people up.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think
doable.
I think we can just make. I think we can like make a resources roll and figure out if popular books are obstacle 3, right?
Yeah.
An elven tome of lore is obstacle 5.
Right.
It seems like that's the kind of thing you're looking to make.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think like making one for every prince let's say that pushes it up to
Mm.
obstacle 6.
Yep, that sounds right.
Is that fair?
That's totally fair.
Cool.
All right. Okay, cool. Ob 6 resources roll.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Let's see what we can do. My resources went up to B4. I have 2D of funds.
Yep.
Will now uh Hohala.
Yeah.
Hohala. I have a hard time pronouncing his name, but I'm trying to get better at it. Hohala.
Me too. Yeah.
He has helped me with my previous resources rolls. He refused to help me with the Iron God because of what happened, but I think he would
Yeah.
probably help me with this too.
Yeah. He'll help you.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. So I'm rolling my resources plus 3 dice, 2 from funds, one from help. I think I should.
Calls.
I know it's. I feel like I can nail this easily if I use my greed.
Right.
But that greed, it's 2 tests away from going up to B7.
Wow. Holy cow.
I started at B5.
It goes up fast.
It goes up fast. Well, I used a lot of it last session.
Right.
I'm gonna do it.
Of course.
Now this would normally only be a difficult test, but because it's greed, so normally I would, if I spend 1 persona, I get to mark. I can spend up to 6 dice of greed, which is broken as hell. But which is a difficult test. But in greed, you always, if you filled up your difficult tests, you roll it up. So this will become a challenging test, and I need 2 challenging tests. So basically 1 more greed test, and and it goes up to B7. But let's do it. All right. So resources. At this rate, I'm going to gray my persona. No, my resources. I mean, I'm not, but all right. Rolling that, I have 3 bonus dice for funds and help. I have 6 Artha, Ob at 6. Ooh, barely. But I got a whole lot of 6s in there. So I don't know if exceeding your resources roll matters, but I'm gonna do it because I just want to see how far I can get. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 6s in there.
Yep.
6. All right, that is 9 successes.
Wow. Yeah, it's a begemmed beauty, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the most beautiful books ever, or most opulent books ever made. That's really cool. I'm not going to make you present that idea again. I think we can take it, unless you really want to.
I think the challenge here, the tough decision you gave me at the very beginning was who are you going to talk to? And the question is, do I give my attention to Zargon and deliver the book myself, or do I give it to somebody else and say, you've got to be my stand-in? And you know what I'm going to do? You know who's my first attendant? You know who's the person who is my number 1 on doing these kinds of things?
Gaffy.
Yeah. Is that going to be an insult? Is that going to be I wonder if that's an insult because he's the one marrying Bella.
Right.
How good is Gaffy? I've been with him for a couple of years now. He became my attendant because he swore an oath to me when I declared myself as prince.
Yeah.
But has he held up well? Has he done well in his job, or is he just sort of been given this job and it's in name only, and he's not really any good at doing the work?
I think he's just like you. I think he is doing his best. He is not built for this, and he's learning on the job, and he really busts his hump. I don't think he's bad at it, but I think it's very difficult.
Yeah.
You know, it's a difficult job to do when you're trained for it.
Yeah.
And it is a very difficult job to do when you were trained to dig trenches.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. Well, I mean, he's what I have. So I'm going to send Toman, my firstborn,
Yeah.
the person who I plan to marry, to one of her children.
Yeah.
He's available for that. I'm going to send Toman and I'm going to send Gaffy, and I'm going to tell them the importance of the book. And I'm going to tell them what I've learned. Maybe I should make an instructor test to see how well I prepare them.
Cool.
Instructor,
love it.
does that seem right?
Yeah. That's good.
I mean, I'm happy for you to roll, their
No.
but
I'd rather like see how well you prepare them. That makes sense to me.
yeah. All right. I have instruction trained. I'm going to fork in Noblewise, ancient history, because it's really based on the same thing.
Right.
I think I feel like the other wises should be appropriate because of, I don't know, what kind of text did she write about? Did she write about the Guilders? Did she write about the host, or was she really just writing about how nobles should act? Because I feel like whatever she wrote about makes sense to bring in as a wise, but if she didn't, then I don't think that's germane.
I think I think she wrote about all kinds of things, but I think noble wise is what makes sense here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna roll instruction. I'm gonna fork in Noblewise. I'm gonna fork in ancient history, based on previous research. And I think
Cool.
I'm gonna spend one persona, but just for a die, not bring in greed.
Cool.
What is my op here?
Good Lord. I think it starts at 3 for like minimum, and then it builds,
Yeah.
And I think failure means like real tension.
Holy crap. I have the administration skill unlocked. I would like, well, is this germane? No, I'm not really. It's not about managing things. No, I think it is, because it's not just about receiving her. It's about receiving her entire host. It's about giving them the right tour of the space. It's about seeing that they're fed. It's about all of the administrative duties. And I'm trying to confer all of that to them.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be a weasel. I just saw that and I was like,
no.
Crap,
Administrator makes sense.
Okay, so I'm forking in 3 skills. I've got 1 Eartha. We're going ob 3. Let's see how. Ooh, just barely. And there's no.
Cool.
And there's no.
There. I think the book. Toman takes the book under his arm, and Gaffy kind of slaps his shoulder and says, "Come on, let's go meet your wife." Toman says, "What?" And he says, and he kind of, I think Gaffy like winks at you, and they leave. How do you then, moving on, how do you welcome the Etharch of the elves?
Yeah, I mean, right. This is like,
moving from one hot topic to another, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's funny because I have played the gift, the Burning Wheel scenario, where the elves are sort of coming to the elves are coming to commemorate a dwarven prince taking the throne, and they forgot to bring a gift, and it's always posed at them as like they're the rudest people ever, and it's so funny to be in the reverse of that, like to be in the other. I've run that scenario a zillion times, and I love it, and it's very funny to have it thrown back in my face right now. I'm like, what are you going to do, dwarf? How are you going to receive the elves that you definitely want to make friends with? I think I think it's very fair to say that I got this. I got the response that they would come and they were going to bring all of their swords some time ago,
Right.
and I I don't think elves. I don't know. I don't think elves respond particularly well to gifts necessarily.
Right.
But I do have something of Fiona Cecile's. I have this trinket that he gave me, and I've been racking my brain to remember what it was, but I wove it into my beard
Right.
some
Yeah.
time
It's
ago.
like, yeah, it's like one of those like uh leaf pins that like the hobbits
Exactly.
had. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I've taken it out. It's been like polished as fine as it possibly could be. The pin has been placed into a little like velvet cushion. You know, there's a little velvet pillow, like a tiny little sort of pillow, and it's like, and it's in it, you know, and it's been put in a rosewood box. Because in my mind, like as a dwarf, I'm like, you gotta like, you not only have to give a nice gift, but you have to like dress it all up. But like ultimately, it's a bauble. Like at the end of the day, this would be an insult to any dwarf, and I'm taking a risk that this would be sentimental and important to um, to the Ethark.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do. I don't tell me if you want to roll on that, but I don't. I think that's all within sort of my purview.
I think it's cool. No, I don't think you need to roll anything on that.
And the instruction I'm going to give is Toman and Gaffy go meet Prince Zargon in the hall. Immediately lead them to the immediately lead them to the vault, which is like the library, which is like the grandest place and thing, and then present them the gift and
Yeah.
see that all their needs, right? And then I'm going to follow up immediately after. So I don't think I'm going to see Prince Zargon at all, and I'm just going to see the Ethark.
Cool. Yeah, I think their exchange of a gift is an elven lore book. And it's more less of a gift to you and more of a gift to the vault.
Mm-hmm.
With like, yeah, her counselor like makes it very clear that there will be a gift for the bride and groom, for the married couple, but like this is a gift for the prince's holdfast, right?
Yeah.
So it's not for like you personally necessarily, but it's for vault.
Yeah. I think Polara has assumed a certain amount of stewardship of the vault where she
Yeah.
feels obligated to kind of restore it to its former glory.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
there's texts that Venera destroyed, and there's things that have been lost over time. And so
Yeah.
that's like an important thing to her to have,
Yeah.
to like leave the vault in better shape than she found it. And yeah.
Yeah.
I
Cool.
think I've got Bella with me, and I sort of like take the book and I hand it to her, and I tell her like where to categorize it, like, you know,
Yeah.
what shelf it should go on so that it's displayed, you know.
The librarian in me wants to make you roll for that, but I'm not. It's not what this game's about. So
Yeah.
we can just move right on.
Right. And then I invite
is
them.
anyone going to be able to find it? Is anyone really ever going to be able to find
Yeah.
it? Did you just make it inaccessible to your client base
Right.
there, your users, your community? Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I have
love
the
it.
administration skill, you know, feel free to.
No. That's not
But
necessary role.
and I think I'm going to immediately ask them to go on a walk with me outside.
Yeah. Cool.
And to go to I imagine where the above the apps where like the skylight is, where you can sort of see down into the vault, but like outside.
Yeah.
And because that's where they're going to be staying as well. She brought all of her host, and so they're not, you know, I imagine they're making camp.
Yep. And I think you can, from this vantage point, you know, from this you know, kind of turret above the library, you can kind of see the valley where the elves are making camp.
Yeah.
And you can kind of hear their songs you know, on the wind a bit.
Nice. And I
I think the Ethark comes out. She I think she looks a bit like her brother.
Mm-hmm.
I think whereas he wore braids down either side of his face, which made him look very harsh, she has all of her hair kind of swept back and out of her face, which it just gives her, it just accentuates very different things. And she says, please call me by my name and not any of my titles. I am Din Arniliel.
And like it's very clear Polara has to like kind of go out of her way not to use honorifics, because she's been like practicing like Prince, Prince Sargon, oldest of the princes, like all the titles, Prince Bulat, student of the Archmage, right? The keeper of Willholt, all that stuff. So she kind of like stumbles for a moment and says, it's an honor to meet you, Din Arniliel. I'm Polara. I was surprised to receive to hear. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that you would come to my daughter's wedding. I seek peace with you, and further, I think that there is there are things that you and I should share. And does she have her whole cohort with her?
No, I think she came out alone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I think, as she is talking to the east, there are storm clouds, and like to the west, I think like the sun is kind of peeking through the clouds, and like there are these beautiful kind of shafts of sunlight. And she says, it was an honor to get an invite, and the timing was very good. I didn't know why my song wasn't over in these lands. I didn't know why the verses hadn't begun where I would go west. My ship is ready, and the way the navigators have set the way. And I've been waiting for years, ever since Bina Janos stopped our two people from going to war and spilling each other's blood around Karakage. I felt a restlessness, and I did not know what the stars had in store for me. And when I got your letter, I knew that was it. It is the final march of the elves. And it is nice that we get to start with a wedding. It is nice that we get to start with love and move on to darker tasks. And I think like she looks at the storm clouds to the east, and you could probably see a part of the southern forests where like the trees are covered in webs,
Yeah.
And she says, my people have warred on them before. When I was but a second to the sword singer who trained me, this was the first war I ever saw against a handmaiden just like this one.
I would like it to be your last as well. I'd like you and your host to see it through. And whereas I expected to have to win you over to this fight, I am very relieved and thankful that it seems you come ready for it. That you understand what's happened. I carry the weight of this. I carry the weight of this on my shoulders. It was I who excavated deep under the vault and opened a shaft which eventually the handmaidens came through. And I share that weight with one other. And then I hand her the box and I
Yeah.
say, this was your brother's. He gave it to me, and it seems fitting that you take it with you now. There is no longer love between us. And maybe I hold it. I hold when I see this, I think venomous thoughts, and I hope when you see it, it brings you more peace than it does me.
What did my brother do to earn such ire?
He when he I think we're kind of like walking around a little bit. I don't know. I'm kind of remembering when the priest, the burning wheel, and Bina were sort of like walking around the Karakagi. I feel like we're sort of just meandering. If that's cool.
And I mean, maybe like this like you climb down a ladder and like get off of the mountain a little bit and like into the valley.
Yeah. And so I kind of like point like where we made camp the very first time when we were tunneling in, and like where I first, kind of got to know Fiona, and I tell a little, I abbreviate, but I tell the story of how we got to know each other and and I said, I was distrustful of him at first, but I realized that he did not seek, unlike my own leader, he didn't want dwarves to die needlessly. And together we were able to rescue your consort and my prince, Jovka, my prince's brother. And I thought he had made a pledge. I thought we were friends, and I thought that I could help him find his purpose again, that I could help him find something to do with his hands to give him meaning. And I watched instead as his grief, as the grief that he hadn't had in years turned to spite, turned to hate. And I don't say this to absolve myself of any responsibility, but I say this because I need you to know it was your brother who led the handmaidens to slay the dragon, and who leads them now. He told me to tell you that Fiona Cecile is gone, and Axel Leonte Orco is his name now.
My family would take it as a kindness if you would, when you recorded this history and when you speak of it, say that Axe Liente Orco killed my brother. It is a lie, but it is a poetic one, and I hope that you will understand why it is necessary.
I do. And besides my family, besides my attendant Gaffy, who was here to witness it, I have not shared this with anyone, nor have I written my own history. I'm happy to do that. Scholars someday in the future may read between the lines. I know I've had to when I've read histories, but I will do my best to preserve his memory. But I ask you something more, and I realize this may be a greater request. This may be even more difficult for you than to go do war with the handmaidens. I ask you to go with me and try and learn of the orcs why who they are and whether we could live with them in peace.
They're creatures of hate. Why would you attempt such a thing?
Where did that hate come from? Is it innate, or is it a circumstance of a cycle of hate that outlasts that outlasts all of them? If it's not innate, then it's not immovable. It's not. It's not indefinite. It's not.
I don't understand what you want me to do with them, or what would we be doing visiting them?
Convincing them not to side with the handmaidens. I was visited a night, I was visited by an orc who risked her life to come and request that I help her. I help her with a divide between the orcs. Some who want to follow your brother and the handmaidens, and join their forces, and some who resist. I don't think it's right for me to get in the middle of an orc clan debate, but I also believe that that we could stop the handmaidens from getting greater purchase by showing up ourselves. And I think that your brother may be taken aback should he see you, and he may rethink his choices, even though he is not the person you know.
I imagined seeing him across a battlefield, not in some orc council. Do they even hold council?
It may very well be a battlefield. In fact, I suspect we will have to do battle before they will even listen to us. I plan to send my graybeards. I'm not going there expecting peace. I'm going there expecting a fight. And I hope that at the end of that fight, we can speak with them. If you don't want to attend, I understand. There's many reasons for you not to. But
if you believe that the orc who killed my brother will be there, then I will be there.
I mean, I think that's what she who whispers into the darkness and the fire said to Balara. She could be wrong. She could have been lying, whatnot. But that's what Balara. And I think I want to share with the Etharch what you and I had sort of what I've been talking about before the game, which is just this notion that like I've seen what happens when a dwarf becomes overcome with greed, and I don't think it's the end of the story. And I think that hate that affects the orcs is the result of a circumstance, and I don't think that means that the orcs have to forever and ever be our enemies. And I think that's a long story. So I imagine like we're walking for like a couple hours because I got to give her the whole backstory of like Rana, and I tell her like also this is like privileged information. Very few know this. Your brother was one of them. He was the one who told me. So it seems fitting that I share that with you. But but I want to instill her with a certain amount of hope to say that like, look, everyone thinks dragons are monsters, and I swore an oath to one, and I was able to work with one. I don't think orcs are monsters. I don't know, but I don't think they are necessarily. So anyway, I'm not sure if that'll gain purchase or not, but I feel like it's worth sharing with her. Oh, and there's a question I have to ask. Sorry, I'm belaboring this a lot, but it's one of the more
important it's great. It's great. Yeah.
I said, what I don't know is what set Fiona on this path to begin with. When I met him, he had already turned to spite years before. And he told me, and I asked him many times if he still felt the grief that elves are renowned for. And he said he couldn't, he said it had been years since he had felt grief.
Hmm.
This was a path that he went on. And I don't know that it's one he can turn back on. And I frankly, I'm not willing to put my time into turning him back on that path anymore. I'm not ready to forgive him. But I still want to know. I want to know what set him on this path. And I wonder if you remember when he became such a wrathful creature and what caused it.
In our war with the spiders, we lost a lot, including my parents. And when that happened, my brother and I were, by elf reckoning, quite young, not old enough to take the Itharcal title, not even close. And those who should have protected us betrayed us, and it turned to kin strife and feuding, and we lived many bloody years out in the world. And I don't think my brother ever forgave it, the world. That is as much detail as I can give without his permission. Is that enough for you?
I think it'll have to be. I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate your honesty, and I don't know what will be a more difficult fight. Going to war in mass against the handmaidens, or facing your brother face to face. They're both terrifying to me. He's unparalleled in many ways.
Yes, we have years to hone our skills, so unparalleled is a fine word to describe it.
And I think, if that makes sense to you, Judd, I think this is when we see the first sign of dwarves and of elves and whatnot.
Yeah.
And all that jazz. And I take my leave of her.
Yeah.
And because I'm imagining there's a million things that need to be done. And I think I want to kind of parse out like what happens next, like what's sort of the order of operation, because we have a wedding, we've got a guerrilla tactics exfiltration invasion of Oricont thing to do, and we have a war council to hold about the spiders. And the only sort of thing I need to do before any of those specifically is before the wedding, I really want to round up elves and dwarves and trolls to work on this project, because I think that's going to be important both for the wedding but also the war council. It's my
cool. So what is the project? I think like you call the princes and the Etharc and her lore master and her lord protector, and the broodmother. Where do you call them? What are you calling them for? I'm not sure I understand.
I doubt I call them all together because I'm not quite ready to deal with everybody at once. So this is probably a lot of lots of running around, but I really want them to repair the apps. I want them to send their best craftsmen. They came with their hosts. They didn't come alone. So I want them to send their people and basically do this, what is effectively a symbolic gesture. It's not like preparing the apps is something that I couldn't have done, but I kind of want everybody's hands as part of it.
Got it.
And it's my hope
Interesting.
to, get us started on a good path of working together in cooperation. And,
Yeah.
it's kind of a small, like I'm purposely picking what I consider to be a small task to sort of like build up good momentum. Like, cool, we did this thing together. Now I'm going to ask you to do a much bigger thing together, which is go to war with the spiders. But like, let's start with this small thing, and then they'll all get to appreciate it when the wedding happens and they see kind of their collective work together.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's my.
That's cool. I don't know if there's any role to be made.
Okay.
Is there? I don't.
I mean, I could make.
I'm not sure I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly make a persuasion roll or circles tests or any of those things.
I don't know. I'm not. I like it as a thing that existed and happened, and whether it's the first thing that they all managed to do together or the last thing that they ever did together successfully, will rely on what happens with the rest of the game.
Okay.
But I just don't see the roles that
Yeah.
interest me or really challenge your beliefs. I mean, you've got the belief about the apps, and I don't know, I guess I could challenge the shit out of that.
I mean,
But
there's something to say that all of these bloody gifts, all these bloody ridiculous resources rolls that I've been making have been to the end of having
yeah,
favorable results, and I've
yeah,
succeeded at all of them. I've made
yeah,
them all by one way or the other. So like, I don't think Zargon is my BFF, but I also, I don't know. I don't know if if I've offended her, but I feel like I hit that baseline, right? I got, like you said, I'm giving her a son. I'm giving her somebody to marry in her family. I'm giving her an
yeah,
honorable, a worthwhile gift.
yeah.
So nice. Yeah, I'm totally cool. I'm totally cool with that. It's not a super juicy thing. I don't think the work itself is that difficult. I think the work itself is super doable.
Cool.
So yeah, what do you think is kind of like wedding, war council, orc invasion? I feel like they're all
Yeah,
kind of looming.
yeah. I feel like it should go wedding, orc invasion, war council, right? In that order.
Yeah.
Why don't I don't think they're going to be like, I mean, I just don't. It could be that I'm just not reading these beliefs closely enough. I don't think so.
Yeah, no. I mean,
I would like to do just a little bit of like narration about living in that wedding moment. But I
yeah.
think as weddings are almost always blurs anyway,
Yeah.
we can kind of blur our way through it. But yeah, why don't we've been at it about an hour. Why don't we take a break and we'll come back
That sounds
and
good.
we'll do wedding, orc, regime change,
Yeah.
and then war council, and then see where this all goes.
That sounds great.
Cool.
All right, cool. Friends, we'll see you back in a few minutes. We're going to go do our various bios, and we'll see you soon.